Good evening, Dr. P talking Korean entertainment. And we're going to continue on the subject that I did a short about, just basically to tell you that I was going to do this. This is my long video on the Constitutional Court in Korea deciding that mandatory military service is not discriminatory towards men. I wholly agree. Now, little background. What's going on here is you have men, one of them Mr. A and a bunch of others, who has filed this suit. And these are men who are either on active duty and don't like being there, are preparing to go on active duty, or are preparing to go to jail for refusing to go on active duty. All right? Now, their idea is making only men serve in the military is discriminatory against men. Now, I have to disagree. Now, I come from a country where women and men serve, but it's all voluntary. But I do have skin in the game. I have family in Korea. I have young men and young women who are family members of mine over there now. So it's not like I'm completely coming from the dark side here. Now, men mandatorily have to serve in the Korean military. Women do not. Women are allowed to volunteer to serve in the military, and some do. I'm sure it's not a large number, but when I was there, I saw them. So it happens. Okay. The court decided that, number one, the manpower need wasn't there yet to force women to have to comply with this. Among other factors, women are different than men. They're not as strong as men. They're not as fast as men. Combat arms is not a good thing for women, especially if they're fighting against combat arms troops who are men. When I was in the military, I was lucky I wasn't infantry. Infantrymen have to carry up to 75 pounds in a rucksack on their back. I had to carry 45. And there were very few women in my unit that could carry a 45-pound rucksack as far and as fast as us men. They just couldn't. It's not their fault. They're not men. Physically, they cannot. So that was all brought up. And then a decision was made. Now, and I agree with that decision. Now, a lot of folks don't. A lot of folks, especially K-pop stans, don't want their precious little K-poppers to have to go in. So they think everybody should serve. All right. Well, they're not really thinking, obviously. And they'll say things like, well, you know, Israel does. And I go, yeah, Israel does. But Israel and the Republic of Korea are two different nations. Israel is surrounded by enemies. Surrounded. Completely surrounded by enemies. South Korea is not. Republic of Korea is not. They technically have one enemy. It may have some allies, but they have one enemy, and that's North Korea. Japan is not their enemy. China is not their enemy, although I'm sure China helps North Korea, but they're not their enemy. There's only 2 or 3 avenues of approach that North Korea can use to enter South Korea on land. Israel, again, is surrounded. All right? Israel is outnumbered in manpower. It's outnumbered in military weaponry. South Korea is not outmanned in manpower if they need it. They have twice as many people in South Korea as does North Korea in the north. North Korea's military is larger, yes, but it's ill-equipped. It has very little fuel, old weapons, and its military members are malnourished. That's the word I was looking for. They don't get enough to eat. So South Korea is not behind, basically, in anything. They have better weaponry, and they have well-fed military, well-trained military. They don't need their women to serve on active duty, especially in combat arms. They don't need them to do so. Now the court did say down the road, if things change, manpower needs change, birth rates change and fall even more than they have, and they just don't have the people, that could be reconsidered. But right now, constitutionally, they decided that women do not have to serve and men are not being discriminated against. They're just not. It is their duty. Let's go a little further. Now, people want women to serve in the military same as the men. Well, in society in South Korea, women are not the same as men. When they work in a company and do the same job, they get paid less. If they have a baby while working, sometimes they can't come back or they have to come back to a lower position. Though it is the women who birth the babies. I've yet to see a South Korean man have a baby. They birth the babies. They nurture the baby after they're born. They raise the children while the men go to work. They run the household while the men go to work. All these things women do. So men don't have to. Men go to work. They probably make more money. They are basically the supporter of the family in an old school way. I understand now that women and men both work. But usually when a woman is pregnant and has more than one kid, eventually they end up leaving the workforce. Okay. So they do all this other stuff. But when they work, they get paid less. And then they have to do all this other stuff. And now, all of a sudden, they should also have to do military service. I don't see it, folks. I don't see it. Now, they don't have to do military service yet, but something has changed in Korean society, at least in government agencies. And I think companies are starting, but definitely government agencies. They have something in South Korea called night duty, where one employee must stay overnight in the facility to keep it safe. Just to be there, to make sure nothing happens. Nobody breaks in. Just to be there. And it's always been men. Women were exempt. Well, at least in government offices, women are no longer exempt. So they also have to stay and do night duty overnight. I used to have to do that in the Army. It's called CQ, or Charge of Quarters, or NCO of the day, that kind of thing. Officer of the day. Women didn't have to. Now they do, at least in government offices. And I say, okay, it's not really military, but is that woman going to fend off an intruder who's a male? Can she run away from that intruder who's a male? If she can't run away, can she defend herself? Can she fight off that intruder who's a male? The answer to all these, for the most part, is no. So if anything happens, the woman's going to get hurt, much more so than a man. I find it just not good. I want to use another word, but I can't think of it. So anyway, that's my take. The court found in favor of non-discriminatory, and I also do not think that women should serve in the military unless they want to. And the other things I said kind of just back that up. So that's my take. I think the Constitutional Court of the Republic of Korea got it right for the third time. They've done this now 3 times. And I believe the courts are still right. Like, subscribe, share, argue. It's all okay. Have a great night. Bye-bye.